Now on Up North Live News at 6. Police and a gunman in a standoff and a 12-year-old rush to the hospital. The latest on the developing story out of mid-Michigan tonight. Weather creating a potentially dangerous situation at a Cheboygan County school. We'll explain what happened. Plus, a new report highlighting just how concerned every Michigander should be about the safety of the water they drink. We'll show you a new resource that will help you determine your risk of PFAS contamination. And skiing through spring. Old Man Winter is laying the groundwork and ski resorts are extending the season.
This is Up North Live News at 6 on 7 and 4.
We have breaking news to start this evening. The Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office just announced moments ago an arrest in a 1989 cold case. Linda Mateer's body was found in Hoosier Valley, and her murder went unsolved for nearly 36 years. There's been an arrest of a 63-year-old Leelanau County man in this case. We'll have more tonight in Up North Live News at 11 and online.
A developing story out of Midland County. That's where a 16-hour standoff between state police and a man barricaded inside a house ended around 4 o'clock. The house was near the intersection of Shearer and Northeast County Road in Coleman. Coleman's a small town, about 14 miles northeast of Mount Pleasant, about 10 miles southeast of Clare. We're told it all started around midnight when state police were called to a house with report of shots fired. When troopers arrived on the scene, they say the suspect shot at them and then they returned fire, with the suspect retreating back to the house. State police say 3 others were in the house when the standoff started.
It was determined that there was an injured 12-year-old inside the house. Troopers worked to remove the injured 12-year-old and 2 adult females from the residence, and they were able to connect the injured 12-year-old with medical care. She was transported to a local hospital where she remains in stable condition. This incident is still ongoing and the subject is still barricaded inside the home.
Well, Vetter says the suspect was taken into custody around 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Cheboygan's East Elementary School was closed today and is closed tomorrow after a strange odor led to the detection of higher carbon dioxide levels inside. An HVAC team is inspecting the entire building right now. Yesterday, students in 2 classrooms were moved due to the odor. The higher CO2 levels were only detected in one of them, and this shouldn't be confused with carbon monoxide, which is far more dangerous. Staff say this was likely caused by excessive snowpack blocking the intake and exhaust systems.
The one thing about East Elementary, and one of the reasons that we passed the bond most recently in November, is because the heating and ventilation systems here are ancient. So what they struggle with, especially in the winter, is bringing in fresh air and pushing out the bad air.
Bird says the teacher who detected the odor visited the hospital with a headache but is feeling better. He says the district may purchase a monitoring system to track air quality.
1 out of 3 Michiganders should be concerned about the water that's coming out of their taps. That's what a new U.S. Geological Survey predictive study suggests when it comes to the forever chemicals known as PFAS. Of those 3 million Michiganders at potential risk, pretty even split between those on public water systems and those on private wells, so common in our area. 20%, up to 95 million Americans may be getting more out of their tap than they know or want. According to a recently published study by the United States Geological Survey, pockets of the country may rely on groundwater that contains detectable concentrations of PFAS. The study collected and tested water from more than 1,200 locations nationwide for the presence of PFAS. The results, according to the USGS, quote, the study's findings indicate widespread PFAS contamination in groundwater that's used for public and private drinking water supplies in the U.S., end quote. While 1,200 samples across the country might not seem like that many, researchers use that data that we know to figure out what we don't. Quote, this new predictive model can help prioritize areas for future sampling to help ensure people aren't unknowingly drinking contaminated water, end quote. While PFAS is a concern nationwide, up to 95 million Americans possibly impacted, it may impact Michigan uniquely. The study predicted roughly 3 million Michiganders' water supplies may be PFAS impacted. Roughly half of those are in public water systems. But USGS says studies like this may be even more eye-opening for many here in northern Michigan, explaining, quote, "This is especially important for private well users who may not have information on water quality in their region and may not have the same access to testing and treatment that public water suppliers do," end quote. The study predicted roughly 1.5 million Michiganders' private wells could be impacted. While city water supplies are tested often, not so much for so many of us. Concerned residents can pay to have their own wells tested. It's not cheap. Expect between $300 and $500. The state has a list of labs on their website, but there's another tool that concerned residents have at their access. It's this. Eagles created an interactive map of the entire state. It provides a lot of information that's pretty easily navigable. Searching around any given address, and within a few clicks, known PFAS sites already determined by groundwater sampling can be added, as well as areas of interest for PFAS. Those are locations being investigated due to the potential for PFAS contamination to affect residential wells for which a source has not been determined, and locations where other steps and testing are in place. It won't tell you if you have PFAS in your water, but it will help inform you of what's happening near your address of interest. The USGS suggests that PFAS may be more widespread than many of us had thought. The Eagle map suggests Michigan isn't immune. While more and more of our communities deal with or discover that, the advice from many, get your water tested. Now, Michigan was one of the first states to broadly limit the state's purchase and use of PFAS-containing products, and legislation has been proposed in Lansing that would make it more difficult for residents and businesses to obtain similar PFAS-containing products.
Listening in to a Frankfort City Council meeting and continuing coverage tonight as a debate over land use and public input ratchets up, centering on a project in the pipeline. That meeting has drawn public comment after a group of locals urged the city to reconsider putting up a 195-foot cell tower near Crystal Lake. Though the property is in Crystal Lake Township, it's owned by the city of Frankfort. Bellows Park is one of the only public beaches on Crystal Lake. Tonight on UpNorthLive News at 11, hear from the community about their frustrations over the tower.
Talking the state and national housing crunch now with the launch of a brand new Michigan program geared to help first-time home buyers break down the cash barriers.
Homeownership is more than just a place to live. It's a foundation for stability and a pathway for building generational wealth. Yet, for too many Michiganders, the dream of homeownership is just out of reach.
So, the cost of homeownership continues to increase. We've seen it increase year over year, and sometimes being able to have more of a down payment is needed to be able to make that dream into a reality for many homeowners across Michigan.
The Michigan State Housing Development Authority, or MSHDA, announcing the launch of its first-generation down payment assistance program. The pilot program provides first-generation home buyers with financial resources in the form of a boost to already available down payment assistance. The $25,000 enables home buyers to cover closing costs, a down payment, and even pay a little extra down to make monthly payments a little more affordable.
In Benzie County, Crystal Mountain will be open until April 6th. Now, this date was set before the season started. We're taking a live look now. Crystal Mountain says that 1 year ago today, the snow base on the slopes was 24 to 36 inches, and today it's up to 46 to 58 inches. They say last year was a total of 90 inches of snowfall for the season, and this year has seen 160 inches already, almost double. The snowfall has the Highlands of Harbor Springs extending its season through March 23rd.
Cruise the Great Lakes, the regional marketing arm of the industry, welcoming 2 premier cruise lines as its newest members. You may recognize the names Victory and Ponant. Both of them have been around cruising the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River for a few years, both now committing to serve the area in the long term. Cruise the Great Lakes has made it a goal to attract more passengers since its founding 6 years ago, expecting to welcome more than 22,000 passengers to Michigan and neighboring ports.
Check this out. Michigan is home to dozens of robotics teams across the state, including here in northern Michigan. A school in Leelanau County is preparing for the upcoming competitions. Suttons Bay High School created the Norseman Robotics in 2011. The team represents 3 schools in the county: Suttons Bay, Northport, and Lake Leelanau St. Mary. The Norseman is comprised of 13 students. At this year's project reveal, the team will have to work together to build a reefscape robot. So they'll have to place algae balls and coral pipes on top of a metal reef.
In years past, we've done a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none style of play. And the way I see the robot heading right now is that's how we're going to go. We're going to be able to do both game pieces in all the different scoring spots, and we're going to be able to do the deep climb, which is worth more points.
And if you'd like Madison to feature your school's robotics team, send her an email at mstoddard@upnorthlive.com. Flood rescues are underway in some parts of the U.S. What officials are saying is severe weather hinders the effort.
Lake effect snow continuing. A look at that and when we start gradually warming back up. More on that after the break.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.